I'm a son, a brother, a husband, a father. I'm a Canadian, a Muslim, an Arab. I'm an engineer, a Western alum, a volunteer, an environmentalist, a political activist, a senior, and more. So where do I belong? I am Hanny Hassan, and I belong in all of those identities. A Lebanese-born author, Amin Maalouf, in his 1996 book, In the Name of Identity, Violence, and the Need to Belong, wrote, quote, "Each individual's identity is made up of a number of elements, and these clearly are not restricted to the particulars set down in official records. Of course, for the great majority, these factors include allegiance to a religious tradition, to a nationality, sometimes two, to a profession, an institution, or a particular social milieu. However, others frequently see us as flat and one-dimensional, selecting one element of our identity and neglecting the complexity and totality of who we are. Most of us are unique because of the combination of diverse characteristics, not because of a specific identity. I was born in London, attended elementary, high school, and university here. I am the eldest of my parents' 11 children. Our home was at the end of a one-block dead-end street that overlooks the coves. As a very young boy, I was awestruck by the wonder and natural beauty of the area and of the creatures that inhabited the coves. I would spend hours there, mostly on my own, just wandering and observing. I understood and related to those who wanted to protect our natural heritage. I belonged there. But London and Canada were much different in the 1940s than today. My family is Arab and Muslim. My parents emigrated from Syria and Lebanon. When I was born, there were only two families in London that identified as Muslims. Even though I was different in some ways, I believed that my neighbors, teachers, and classmates did not treat me differently. The environment was benign to those of us who did not belong to the dominant culture, probably because we did not pose a threat to the status quo. In fact, at times it seemed that acceptance of our difference validated the openness of those who were in authority. This is our Muslim. Interestingly, the mandated Christian education program in elementary school inadvertently led me into interfaith community service. Priests and ministers would deliver the weekly lessons when teachers were uncomfortable in doing so. Most of them were respectful of other faiths. However, some would deliver hurtful messages about non-Christians. When a preacher said something that was wrong or offensive about Muslims, I discussed that with my parents. My open-minded teachers would invite me to share my concerns and stories with classmates. By the time I reached the 7th grade, I had become a resource and was soon delivering talks about Islam at men's breakfasts in church basements. Islamic institutions were just being formed in London. I was very active in the embryonic London Muslim community and participated in interfaith and intercultural projects. I belonged in that environment. From my bedroom window, I could look north over the coves and see the steam locomotives crossing the trestle over the Thames. That provided my first introduction as a child to the word engineer. Because I was a pretty good student in math and science, I had no trouble getting into Western's fledgling engineering school. However, just before starting university, I met my wife, Najat. We married in 1961, in the midst of my engineering education. My summer job in 1963, working on the Trent Canal in Peterborough, gave me great confidence. After that, I knew that I belonged in engineering. When I graduated in 1964, our family had grown to include 2 sons. My first full-time engineering position was with the Department of Public Works in Halifax. While there, I continued my interfaith work and became educated about and involved in the human rights cause of blacks in Halifax's Africa. This was my first encounter with stark and blatant racism. I maybe didn't notice it before. I worked with strong advocates of equality, equity, and social justice. It allowed me to pivot to a more comprehensive perspective of those on the margins of society. I'd been aware, but did not appreciate, as a young person, the situation of Indigenous communities in London. I knew that I belonged with those seeking justice and equality. After completing a Master of Engineering program in Halifax, I took a position with an architectural engineering firm in Toledo, Ohio, my wife's hometown. There I remained active in social justice causes, including opposition to the Vietnam War and support for the Buckeye Basin neighborhood, where the poor and visible minority inhabitants had inadequate schools and services and no voice. In 1977, I was recruited by Dillon Consulting in London. At Dillon, I grew professionally, becoming a manager and partner. With the company's support, I participated in many voluntary activities, including the London Chamber of Commerce, the Cross-Cultural Learners Centre, the London Board of Education, London Muslim Mosque, and the Council of Muslim Communities of Canada. I also belonged in that voluntary sector. In the late 1980s, as chair of the Ontario Advisory Council on Multiculturalism and Citizenship, I worked extensively on equity and social justice policy, especially dealing with substantive matters of diversity, human rights, and equal treatment under the law. When I was appointed to the Judicial Appointments Advisory Committee, the Attorney General said that my mandate included educating the remaining members of the committee on the need for the Ontario bench to be reflective of the population of the province. More recently, I was invited by the Alumni Association to join Western's Board of Governors, eventually being named as its chair. For my volunteer efforts in 2011, I was appointed a member of the Order of Canada. Acceptance and recognition confirmed that I belonged in all those roles. I was fortunate to have had good role models. My mother was the consummate advocate. She could not witness an injustice without responding. My father was a quiet and generous man who encouraged me and my siblings to be the best that we could be and to be helpful for others. My father taught me the importance of collaboration. Amin Maalouf also wrote, quoting, "It can happen that some incident, a fortunate or unfortunate accident, even a chance encounter, influences our sense of identity more strongly than any ancient affiliation. I call that serendipity. Serendipity only works if you are open to the opportunities and have a sense of belonging and confidence in each of your identities, and the possibilities are unlimited." Thank you.